click, buy, deliver. With remote purchasing from the 2-time Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year, Colchester Kawasaki. Proud sponsors of Chasing the Racing.
3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasing the Racing, episode 109. And we're actually at a go-karting track, Carton North East at the moment. And we're joined
Hold on,
by...
is that a shameless plug, or are we actually getting some money for that one?
No sponsorship, but big welcome to the podcast to Andy Hayes, Director of Racing at Scarborough. Director of Scarborough.
Director of Oliver's Mount Racing.
Co-director with Wendy, of course.
Co-director with Wendy Hayes, yes.
And may I just say congratulations on, obviously, the KTM Red Bull ride there. When did that come about?
Well,
if I corporate sellout.
If I did, it's just to try and get on their Dakar team one day.
Oh, there we go then.
Yeah.
There we go. I think we should jump straight into it. You're a bit of a Dakar man then.
I like the rallying, so yeah, that's my passion nowadays. So I just got back from a not too successful trip to Greece for the Hellas rally.
The Hellas rally?
Yeah, which is
that's gone straight over our heads there.
Well, Hellas is Greek for Greece, I think.
Right.
So, yep. So it's just the first round of the European Championship.
So there we go.
Yeah. Are you doing the full European?
No, I'm not, because I've got this thing called Oliver's Mount to concentrate on instead. But yeah, I would like to if it wasn't for that. Yeah.
I was about to say, because a lot of people will be tuning in to see what actually has happened this season, how it all turned into what it was when it actually got shut down, and the whole story building into that. But here we go. Go on, Chris.
Yeah, can I just jump in? So we'll get talking about the recent news, Oliver's Mount, as Dom's just alluded to. But we've actually got a breaking news. By the time this podcast goes out, it'll be just after the first round of the British Superbike in Oulton Park, so it won't be news then. But the news is actually that we've got a new member of the BSB paddock. We've got a new hair gel wanker, and to welcome to the BSB club, I bought him a BSB starter pack.
Oh my god!
Here we have. So if you're watching this on YouTube, we've got your sunglasses.
Actually, good quality glasses.
Yeah,
there you go, straight from Lidl. The middle of Lidl. You ever been to middle of Lidl?
I have, yeah.
We've got your
regularly.
We've got your hair gel.
Oh my god!
I'm
chewing my words here now, aren't I, son?
We've got your teeth whitening. We've got your moisturiser, when your skin gets a little bit dry. So
Chris, I'm a bloke.
A little bit of fake tan in there as well.
Shut up, man. Have you nicked this from your sister?
We've got some compeeds for when you get blisters, on your hands and your ankles. So you definitely need them to look after. We've got some Sharpies for signing the autographs for the fans. And finally, we've got a book for you to write your feelings in. So if you're feeling a bit low, that's so welcome to the club, sir.
Chrissy, the only thing you didn't get is, so you know what that is, don't you?
I think you're going to say talent.
Yeah, damn right, it's talent. Is there any talent in the bottom of that bag? Because if not, can you see any, Andy? Because there's nothing in there. So.
I'm just wondering how you're going to show your face in the road race paddock again after this.
I'm just hoping it opens up with open arms, and I'll get back to Oliver's Mount. But I'm definitely getting chucked in the deep end. Fucking the armbands clean off and just head first.
Just a quick message on that. So you're doing the first round Super Sport.
Yeah.
It's with the Counting Racing team on the same bike as what you've been riding at Oliver's Mount and stuff.
Yeah, well, obviously this came about from, I was about to say, everything's going to go around what we're going to discuss later on, but it came about because Oliver's Mount has obviously hit some difficulties.
Yeah.
And we've actually stepped into the British paddocks solely because it fell at the right spot. Now, don't get me wrong, there were other club meetings and stuff, but we sat down as a team and went, I tell you what, let's face it, if you're going to go fast, it is at British. You're talking the cream of the crop. It is at the top. There you are. That's a T-shirt right there. Let's get that sold. That's the next merchandise straight off the top. I'm very realistic. This is where we're talking backwards now. So it's already been happened while it's going. But if I win, I'm over the moon, which ain't gonna happen.
By the time this goes out, your bike could be in 1,000 pieces.
Oh, don't be saying that, man. Don't be saying that, because Fran, it's not my bike, it's Fran's, man.
Going into the, I know you've done a few wild cards before BSB, but have you got any sort of realistic ambitions for the weekend, or are you just not thinking about it?
I've got no real. No, I haven't got any. No, that's the thing. I just, what the worst thing is, Chris? I'm just going to say how it is. I'm just scared of making a bigger dick out of myself than I normally do. You know what I mean? I'm more uncomfortable sitting on a microphone making a fool of myself. That's water of a duck's back. But when you're passionate about it, and we're all passionate people, especially don't have to tell you, you're on a race circuit now. But it's hard, that's the truth, and people, you can just get called shit and you're useless and that, but I'm not scared of failure. I'm not scared of failure because you can only learn from there, and I'm fully aware that I'm going to be at the back. I know that, and I'm going to learn, and if I don't go in there and learn, I really am wasting everyone's time and money, and I can't wait to get going. That is a cracking excuse for people going, he's already underlined it that he's shite. But
let me just say, I think you're doing absolutely the right thing. I think national level racing is just absolutely the best thing to sharpen you up and bring you on and develop those skills. You look at so many people that have achieved great things on bikes, and they've pretty much all come from national level racing, haven't they? So I think absolutely you're doing the right thing.
That's it. But like it's the cost thing that's going to probably stop us doing it in the future. But it's the game. It's the rules we have to abide, don't they? The controlled fuel, the controlled tires, and everything like that. I'll tell you what. Yet again, we're going past it. Have you seen the tire regulation thing? We're having to run 190s, and yet stock lads are having to run 180s. Do you know anything about this 190? Well, it'll be straight over your head, won't it?
Yeah, I know we've had a change of tyre. So Eddie Roberts at Complogs had the tyre supplier. He's been the official tyre supplier for BSB for years, and that's all changed now. So Complog have been replaced by, I think, is it Pro Tyre, I think they're called, or something like that. And with that change, there's been a few changes. So like Superstock tyres have went from being I think they've went from 55s to 60, so they're it's lifted the bike a little bit off the ground, and I think Supersports had a small change, but it hasn't seemed to affect the time as much in testing, either positively or negatively. They've been kind of where you would expect them, so I don't think there'll be that much in it, to be honest.
Fast as fast, but I'll tell you what, that was going to lead into that perfect little question of like, how did you get to meet Eddie? But I think people need to know who you are and how you got into racing motorcycles, period.
Okay, so I was thinking about this on the way up because I knew you were going to ask this. So
it's called an interview.
I did what so many times I listen to your podcast all the time, and so many times you interview lads and they say, "Oh, well, I went to see careers advisor and they said I should do this, said I should do that. I never make anything myself racing motorbikes, and I proved them wrong." Well, I did what they told me. I basically stayed on, did A-levels, went to university, got the proper job and everything, but by the time I could afford to go racing, I was like 35. So I didn't start racing till I was 35. I did a couple of years with NG road racing. Fantastic club, loved that to pieces, really, really enjoyed it. And I got to the point where I won a kind of minor championship with them, and I knew that if I was going to push on and try and win, say the Club 600 championship, that I'd have to get far more serious and put far more into it. And I just didn't really have the time or money to do that. So I quit racing, built my own house for a few years, and then I went to...
Right.
And then
with all this money I've saved, I'm going to build a house.
I don't want to upset you, Dom, but if you quit racing, you could probably build a house
Not
too.
Not a bloody hope, son. Not a bloody hope.
Build it out of tree trunks.
Oh God, I even need planning permission for that with the bloody wet wipes in the council.
So in 2015, I went to watch my good friends Steve and Matty Ramsden do sidecars in the TT, and I watched the whole TT. It was the first TT I'd ever been to, and I thought, I want to do this. So I decided to take up racing again, which got me...
Destroyed the house.
Yeah, destroyed the... Now, to be honest, I've never finished the house, and since I started racing, I told Wendy it's on hold now. So I haven't even finished it yet.
How many years is this live?
Well, it was 2016 that I started racing again, so I haven't touched it since then.
Oh, God. And you're still married?
Just about.
Oh, there you are.
Just
Should we listen to this going, that's it. They brought up a good point there. When is this house getting done?
Don't remind her. So 2016 Spring Cup, I found myself on the grid at Scarborough. And as you know, Scarborough is one of them places you either love or hate it. And I loved it, just loved it from the outset. And so I raced quite a lot at Scarborough in 2016, 2017. I got to do the Manx Grand Prix in 2017, did it again in 2018. And absolutely loved that. To be honest, I don't need to tell you, racing around the Isle of Man, for me, it's the best thing I've ever done in my life. And you could probably agree with that, I'm sure.
100%. I'm very, very biased in that situation.
I know we can swear on here, but I have to say, I remember, you take that left-hander on at Crosby, flat in top, absolutely stretching the cables, and in my helmet, I just thought, this place is fucking mental. It really is, isn't it? It's just the best feeling ever. I got to the point there where I could either keep doing that and keep getting a couple of mile an hour faster a year and that kind of thing, But I've got this reputation for sort of crashing quite a lot as well. And so,
now, let me clear this up. We had no idea about that reputation. Probably none of our listeners. So would you like to tell us why you got this reputation?
Well,
don't say it from crashing. Don't you dare say it, Chrissy.
Lee Johnston said to me, "How can someone who goes so slow crash so much?"
You're a trier.
Yeah. I'm a definite trier, and definitely I'd say ambition outweighs ability quite a few times. So I figured if that's your mindset, maybe the Isle of Man isn't the place for you. So I figured, because in 2017 it had a go at killing me, and it had another go at 2018.
Oh, so you've crashed on the island?
No, I haven't crashed, but I should have done both times. So one time on lap 2 of the newcomers race, my rear wheel bearing collapsed just coming out of Greba Bridge. So
no, that wasn't your fault. To be fair.
Well,
was it?
I'm part of the mechanic team really at my level, aren't I? So I think we missed a spacer out the back wheel, and that crushed the bearing. So,
right.
So how important bike prep is for that place. So
100%.
Just
I'm surprised you got around Quarter Bridge with it.
Well, I did a full one lap with it like that. So this was lap 2. So I'd already done 170 mile an hour on it. So I take that as a a slice of luck, large slice of luck.
A slice.
Yeah.
One of your 9 lives.
Yeah. So that was year 1, and then year 2. I don't know if you've ever done it. You're probably not as stupid as me, but for 5 seconds, I can't believe I'm saying that actually. For 5 seconds, have you ever had a brain fart where you forget where you are, and that is not the place to do it? But coming up to Balacry, I forgot where I was, and I just peeled in. I drifted over to the left, so I entered Balacry on the left-hand side of the road. And I've got it on video, and I kind of shut off, because I ain't got a clue what's going on. And then all of a sudden, I've got this big left-hand corner, I'm doing 130 mile an hour. I should have been doing 150, but I'd backed off. And I ended up going wide on the exit, but I tried to make the corner rather than shit myself and brake. I tried to make the corner, ended up skimming along the hedgerow. My 2 tyres were totally off the tarmac, and I'm skimming along the hedgerow at 130 mile an hour. And I just thought, I'm down. But next thing I know, it's dropped back down, pegged down 3 gears down to Quarry Bends.
And was that enough for you to just think, oh, I think this might not be the best idea?
I just think if you've had a near-death, well, it's wrong to say near-death experience, but if you've had warnings, 2 years on the trot, you kind of don't want to give it a third chance, do you? And sometimes you've got to quit while you're ahead. And, I was, probably 46 years old, and I'm thinking, I'm not going to win this thing. I'm only doing it for the enjoyment of it. Plus, I kept dragging my kids. Their summer holiday, as every other kid's summer holiday, was just basically in a rainy caravan in a paddock in Douglas for 2 weeks. And you just think, if I'm not here for any great purpose, apart from having a bit of fun, can I really spoil these kids' summer holidays for the rest of their childhood?
It's more like make them from your experiences.
It is. That's it. That's the thing, though, isn't it? So was your parent, speaking on that note that Chrissy's brought up, do your parents race or anything like that, or bikes? Or
they hate motorbikes. So
you're not from a racing family, then?
No. But I've got 2 older brothers, and they were both into bikes. That's why I got some kind of bike thing. Because when I was a kid, I used to live in Guernsey. And in Guernsey,
one of the best named places in England, just so you can say it out loud to people. I'm from Guernsey.
Yeah. And in Guernsey, you can ride a 100cc bike on the road at the age of 14.
Piss off.
You can. So
not legally.
No, legally. No, I know this will be a new concept, Don, but legally, you can ride a bike on the road at 14.
So if we ask Siri right now,
can
you have a word with yourself? No way.
Do it seriously.
What, even now.
I hope there's a Guernsey listener right now going, Mum, get the wheels out.
It was only when I was flying out to Greece the other day, I happened to bump into a guy who lived in Guernsey, and I said, "Can 14-year-olds still ride on the road?" He says, "Yep, they can." So literally, it's still happening.
Is that your only backup to this argument?
No.
At the airport.
No. So what I'm saying, when I lived in Guernsey, I was 8. But my brother was... So I lived there between the age of 4 and 8, but my brother is 8 years older than me. So he was 14 and he had a CB 100N. And I remember at the age of 6, sat on this bike on the driveway just pretending to rev it. And that's what got me into bikes.
That's inspiration.
Yeah, but Mum and Dad never liked bikes at all, so I got no encouragement as a kid at all. So now I've got a racetrack and 10 bikes in the garage just to piss them off.
And a KTM contract. They must be so proud.
Now, speaking of the track, Oliver's obviously. when was it, a few years ago, when everything sort of looked at, well, the future was very uncertain, and just talk us through the story of like how it was all rescued and the team.
Okay, so just to finish off how I got into it. So 2016, 2017 I raced there. I was racing at the Gold Cup in 2017 when the two bad accidents were. I just finished the 600A final, and then it was the 600B final that Daly on the electric bike went through the fence. So that was literally the race. I was really in the last race that finished at Oliver's Mountain. In fact, I probably came last in that race as well. So I was probably the last person to finish a race there.
Now, we all heard of that incident. What was the actual reason? Like, I knew Daly unfortunately had an accident and the bike went into the crowd. Was it into the crowd?
It went straight on at Drury's through the gate.
Right, there we are. And then that caught, like, but what actually, was there an actual outline reason why that happened then?
I haven't read any official report into it, but my guess is that because these electric bikes weigh about a quarter of a ton.
Yes.
My guess is that by lap 2, I think it was.
Because Daly knew that place like the back of his hand. You know what I mean? Like the back of his hand.
I'm fairly confident what will have happened is by lap 2, you know how heavy the braking is at Oliver's Mount.
Yeah.
You know, you've got 3 hairpins, massive braking, 3 times a lap. I imagine he'd cooked the brakes by the time he got to Drury's on lap 2.
Right.
So I reckon at the end of Drury's, he just had no brakes.
And then the incident happened after that.
That's my guess.
Right,
but I've seen nothing official on that.
Yeah, I've not seen anything on that side of things. But so you saw the incident, and then where do we go from there?
Okay, so I kind of got word in early 2018 that things were going a bit pear shaped with Auto 66 PMH Promotions. So I got in touch with the council to see if I could be a part of bringing it back.
Literally, just picked up the phone, rang the council office.
Yeah, picked up the phone and rang them. That didn't get me very far, to be honest. I don't know why.
Can you remember how you opened that call?
Yeah.
Hi, it's Andy Hayes.
Hi.
The crasher. Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
I'm ringing about safety. Oliver's Mount. Yeah, no, I literally just, I think as far as it got me is I ended up having a 10-minute conversation with somebody, tried to sell them why I could do something there, and obviously didn't go too well. And ultimately, they decided that Mick Grant and Eddie Roberts were the right pair to bring this back, and so they were cracking on with that. And when I did the Manx, I got a lot of help from Nick Jeffries, in terms of learning the course and that kind of thing. And Nick's such a great guy. Nick been friends with Mick and Eddie, and initially part of that group that were bringing it back. Nick knew that I really wanted to be involved in that as well, so he introduced me to Mick and Eddie. We had a chat, and we agreed that I could be part of that group. And that actually came around, that was probably around about January 2019, so about a year after I'd first tried to get involved, I actually then became part of Mick and Eddie's group.
Right. Oh, no, it's just interesting how Mick and Eddie just seemed to have just appeared with this. Was that, like, how did that actually come about? Did them two just have a chat and then just get in touch with the council themselves?
There's a whole backstory to that'd fill this entire podcast, and some of it's a little bit political as well. So it's probably best just left at the fact that
they got involved.
Yeah, Mick and the council wanted the council thought Mick and Eddie were the right people to resurrect it.
Yes.
Mick and Eddie decided that they wanted somebody young. Both been in the 70s, and I often hear quotes from Mick because he comes out with so many quotes. Mick and Eddie didn't see it as a career move. That's straight from Mick. So they thought that it would be great to bring in somebody younger with enthusiasm that could take it forward into the future. So it was always the idea that I'd be, if you like, for a couple of years their apprentice, that they'd get it up and running, and then they'd hand it over, because they, about the amount of hassle that's going on at the moment. They don't want that. They've done their work. They've retired. They want to enjoy their retirement. And Mick loves his trials. Eddie loves his classics. They've done what they had to do in terms of getting it resurrected again. So, like, between all this, you've obviously got like a day job and everything like that. So you don't. Unfortunately. What do you do for a day? Like balancing a racetrack as well as a job. I've got a really exciting day job. I'm an IT project manager in central government. Around about February 2020, I actually gave up my day job. Now, if you think back in history, that was a really bad time to give up a job. That was probably the worst time in history to give up a job. So I did actually give up my job around about February 2020, so I could concentrate on getting more and more involved in Oliver's Mount. But obviously, this little thing called coronavirus popped up around about February, March time. So luckily, I was able to go cap in hand back to my boss in my day job, and I got my job back. So I'm still doing that now. And the reason I'm still doing that, and it does make life really, really difficult because effectively I've got 2 full-time jobs, but I need to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And obviously the time that we've had at Oliver's Mount, there's no way I can pay the bills from Oliver's Mount. You know, it just has no spare cash whatsoever. So I think the best thing I can do for Oliver's Mount is just work bloody hard, have 2 full-time jobs, and not take any wage for Oliver's Mount, really. And that's as simple as that.
And obviously, there's been huge news recently with Oliver's Mount in terms of like you had 4 scheduled races this year.
Yeah.
And the first one was a great event. I came down myself and really enjoyed watching the race.
Dom stayed on, didn't you? Stay on this time?
I stay on a lot more than you, so yeah.
I don't know. I've had to repair your fence.
Which fence?
Farm Ben's.
What was that, last year?
Yeah. Did you not go through the fence?
I did. That was my fault. That was definitely my fault. That was 100% my fault.
So you might forget, but you'd leave carnage behind and we have to clear it up.
Mate, that's called my life, mate. Getting the way, getting an enjoyment side of it. No, brake failure, that was a good one. Yeah, funny, we were talking about brakes. That was my fault.
But obviously, it's been massively in the news recently that there's talk us through what's happened, like the ins and outs of it.
Okay, so obviously, Oliver's Mount has had no luck at all since that race in 2017 we just discussed. So obviously, what went on in 2018, I think, was terrible. The way that people were treated in 2018 by PMH Auto 66. Peter Hillaby did an awful lot for Oliver's Mount over the years, but I think he really let himself down at the end, and how he treated people in 2018 was disgraceful. And then 2019, we obviously had to invest a lot of money up front. We had to buy loads and loads of Recticel. You'll see as you're riding around, there's lots and lots of Recticel now everywhere, isn't there? And it's according to Gary Thompson, it's the safest road race that he knows. And we've seen some accidents. We've seen people go into the cafe. We've seen people crash along the start-finish straight, and get away relatively minorly. I think without all that investment and that Recticel, I think some of them accidents would have been quite a lot worse, to be honest. So it's definitely paying off. Then 2020, obviously the pandemic, we had a couple of events, but we had restricted crowds. We pretty much just kind of covered our costs in 2020, if that. So 2021, we had great hopes for this season. We had 4 events booked in. The Spring Cup went really well. We actually for the first time we saw the bank balance move in the right direction for a change, and I thought, my God, we've actually turned the corner now. We can actually have 3 other great events. We can even get like an annual championship up and running as well, because we've got 4 events, so that was on the cards. And then it just out of the blue, the council, Scarborough Council, decided that they had a duty to inspect their entire estate, and they probably do have. I don't know the rules around it, but I imagine they do have this duty, and I think they'd maybe been a bit lax in doing this for a while, but they decided that now was the time they needed to do it. So they brought in an external surveyor who was going around every building in Scarborough, and when he got to Oliver's Mount, to be honest, he was scared by what he saw. He pulled up by one of the buildings, and he ended up actually moving his car. That's how scared he was.
Which building was that then?
That was actually just at the back of the Med Centre. So, that little kind of lay-by parking area there. And so, as the week went on, in fact, it was kind of over 2 weeks. Over the course of 2 weeks, it went around building after building, and the story just got worse and worse. So, we at 243 Racing, road racing, we had a number of meetings where we discussed the situation as more and more buildings were getting ticked off as condemned and needed demolishing. We had plenty of meetings to discuss how we could carry on with the Barry Sheen, because we're only a couple of weeks away from Barry Sheen.
I was about to say that was the worst thing about this whole situation, and sadly people read what they want to read in any situation. Like they can't. People are feeling hard done by. People are like this, going, "What, 2 weeks? But why haven't you given them 2 weeks?"
Absolutely. So we had plenty of plans in place, and then we had more and more discussions with the surveyor, and more buildings had problems, and it just got to the point where it just became absolutely unsustainable. So, for example, if you can imagine, around every building in the paddock, they've now put Harris fencing that's probably, I don't know, let's say 7 or 8 meters away from a building. So every building now has a 7 or 8 perimeter exclusion zone around it. And then we started discussing things like the LPG tank that's next to the cafe building, and they needed a 17 meter exclusion zone around that. If we were going to have a generator, there had to be 3 meter exclusion around the generator plus a fuel tank. So I even said, well, okay, we won't have any power. We'll ask the teams to bring their own generators, which wouldn't be popular, but it would have still worked. And they said, no, you can't do that, because what you're doing there is you're increasing the fire risk. You cannot mitigate one risk of building collapse by increasing the fire risk to mitigate it. So I said, right, if you're telling me lads can't run tyre warmers, there's no way they can have power for tyre warmers, the meeting's going to have to be cancelled, because what you've done there is there's a theoretical risk about the fire risk, but there's a very real risk of sending people out on cold tyres. And so it just became completely unsafe to proceed. Mm-hmm. So I discussed with them about the timeline, because what we've got to do now is we've got to demolish these buildings so we can take the Harris fencing down and then we can claim that space back. I discussed the timelines of how long it's going to take us to do this, and obviously it being the council, I mean, the council are doing everything they can to help us out, but things in the council take time to achieve, and especially where there's money to be spent as well. So they couldn't give me any assurance that all this would be done in the next 6 weeks prior to the festival meeting. And in all honesty, I couldn't in good conscience sell tickets for an event I wasn't confident of running. And you know, the hardest part for me is when you hear tales of people that have booked ferries, booked hotels, all that kind of thing. You know, it's not just the 20, 25 or 40 quid they're paying for a ticket. Some people have spent £500 on ferries, weekend, hotels, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And we've been at the sharp end of people ringing up saying, I'm 500 quid down, what are you going to do about it? And it's heartbreaking. So obviously you hope that hoteliers that rely on this trade, and that ferries that rely on this trade, you hope they'll help people as much as they possibly can. But when you know that's the real cost of this happening, you know, you can't in good conscience allow people to go making these plans if you're not 100% sure you're going to run that meeting. So I just had to take the call there and then that the festival wasn't going to run either.
So is that the next two are cancelled?
Yeah.
So have you still got the final one this year?
So we've got the Gold Cup. So the Gold Cup is scheduled for the 18th and 19th of September. That gives us basically in this meeting. It was a council, the surveyor, and also the ACU as well. I said to all parties, I said, we've really got to concentrate on making sure we get everything done so the Gold Cup can run in 3 months' time. And I've got to be honest, and I laid this down to them as well. I said, if we don't run the Gold Cup, then the future of Oliver's Mount is in doubt. Because we got the Spring Cup, that went well. That financially will see us through summer. If we don't run the Gold Cup, I don't know how we're going to get through winter, quite honestly. But if we do have a good Gold Cup, and I firmly believe we will, there will be money in the bank to see us through winter.
And what, in terms of the buildings, what's the plans for, like, you collapsing the cafe? What else?
The cafe can probably be saved by demolishing the back of it. So there's a wall at the back that apparently doesn't have planning permission and should never have been built. It's not been built on decent footings at the back. It's on virtually a cliff. It's going to disappear down that cliff soon enough anyway. So the idea with the cafe is we're going to drop the back wall, and then basically we're going to make that good. All we will actually lose from doing that is the showers. So the idea then is to bring in some porta cabins for showers.
We're all tramps anyway. You don't need showers.
Yeah, you all smell. Not now, Dom.
Oh no, I'm the BSB paddock. But yeah. I tell you what. Sorry for interrupting you. So you know when you're saying like we and that, so you being the director of it, those buildings belong to the council.
They do.
So is it the council who has to foot the bill for the repair? Who's what? There's so many. I can see hurdles here. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm thinking
So that is a topic of debate right now, as you can imagine. So legally, in a commercial lease, it's quite common that the tenant has responsibility for the building in terms of maintenance.
Which would be the council in this situation.
No, I'm the tenant.
Oh, sorry, tenant.
I'm the tenant. So the council would have a very strong legal argument to say that I'm responsible for it. But I would have a strong argument to say that actually these are these buildings were delinquent 2 years ago when the lease started. I don't really want to go into this too much because the council are being tremendously supportive, and we haven't had that discussion where we're both pointing the finger at each other. Basically, what we've said is the only way we're going to get through this and save Oliver's Mount is by each of us doing as much as we possibly can, and that's where we are with the council. I've obviously seen things online. A lot of people blame the council. A lot of people think that the council want to actually see racing finishing at Oliver's Mount, and this is their way of kind of forcing that. That's completely untrue. The Scarborough Council know how much money it brings into the economy locally. They're tremendously supportive of it, and they are going beyond what they are legally required to do, and they are being very supportive. So I think we don't know where we're going to get to with it quite yet, but there will be a degree of shared responsibility, and they will help with and certainly in terms of professional advice. They're helping massively at the moment because so much of this is outside of our skill set and experience, but they've got the resources to get the right people on board to help and make sure that it's all done in the right way. So they will help. So just to finish off, there's quite a few buildings that will be demolished within, I would hope, 4 weeks. So we'll flatten those buildings if we can within that timescale. And then for the Gold Cup, we'll be looking to get some porta cabins in, just to run that Gold Cup meeting, and then as and when funds allow, we'll be replacing the buildings. But even, for example, the iconic control tower, that probably has about 18 months left to live, and then that will have to get replaced as well.
Right.
In 2 or 3 years, I think the only buildings that are in the paddock now that you'll see in 2 or 3 years' time are the Irish Bar, which surprisingly is the only building with a complete clean bill of health.
Class. Have you seen the Irish Bar? It's a little wooden hut that pretty much a god built. You know what I mean? Right. So it's like many a tale have been spun in there, son.
It's even had Michael Dunlop in it doing a burnout in his bike, but apparently that's good for buildings.
In that way, that's it. The rubber, the smell, the lot, the atmosphere. It's going to live.
Yeah. So and probably the cafe and toilet and rider office block, that will probably survive as well. But probably like that big scrutineering bay, that'll definitely be gone with very soon. The buildings are so old and run down and pretty much a health hazard. There's nothing really worth saving.
Yeah.
And the worry for me is, I mean, it'd be great to start off with new buildings, clean bill of health. It'll set us up for the next 25 years. The worry for me is that we lose some of that character, and that worries me slightly. But I think at the end of the day, we need to move on.
Really. And the Spring Cup at the beginning of the year, was that limited to 4,000?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, and was it a case of it was sold out quite early, and would you expect without the restrictions that there would have been many more there, or is that about where you're looking at?
No, because it didn't actually sell out.
Oh, so...
really? Yeah, no, it didn't. So I can tell you now that we had about 2,500 there on Saturday and about 3,500 on Sunday, so we never actually sold the 4,000. Now,
it's a bit of a shock, mind.
It is. Just
because more people just think, oh, well, they'll be gone, won't they? People just assumed rather than anything.
Yeah, but I wonder, and I'm hoping that is because people are still wary of coming out, or because I think at Scarborough as well, a lot of people love to look at what the weather's doing and come on the day and just pay on the day, and we're not allowed to accept that. We can only accept payment in advance at the moment, and that. If you look traditionally at how people pay when they come to Oliver's Mount, it's the vast majority are on the day in cash, and we haven't allowed that for 2 years now, and that is purely because of coronavirus. As soon as restrictions are gone,
cash is king.
Well, we just want everyone to come back, don't we?
Yeah, definitely.
Because what I have said, the best way people can support Oliver's Mount is to come to the races. Absolutely, if people come to the races, pay their entry. It's like, any road racing in Ireland or wherever. We all need. We're very much at a crossroads right now, and we all need people to come and support us. And if you don't come and support us, it won't survive. And that goes for Ireland, Southern 100, Oliver's Mount. We need people back through the gates. I do think that in the past, I think we priced people out of it a little bit, and I'm trying really, really hard to keep prices as low as we possibly can, because I'd much rather lots of people come and pay a bit than a few people come and pay a lot.
Yeah.
And that's why as well, kids under 16 are free, and I'd like to think they always will be free, because we've got to get that next generation into it, and I don't want to make it difficult for families. I want to make it easy for families to come.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree, but I'll tell you what though, there's something that I keep mentioning. Well, you do listen to the pod and you've probably heard me say it. It's like, on a total personal note, now just take away the shit stick that you've been beaten half to death with. Now, what's happened is, with the clash dates, now that is not just like Scarborough and the road racing, it's been the BSB and clubs. It's another compact year for the whole of the sport. But with your misfortune, it's actually freed up road racing a little bit more. Now, now Bill Kennedy at the moment, at this precise moment, he's only allowed 500 spectators. And in his own words, it's not feasible to run if they only allowed 500 spectators.
I can completely believe that, because in my early discussions around the Spring Cup, it was suggested that we'd run with 2,000, and I just said we can't. We will just lose money, and we are not in a position at the moment to lose money. So I pretty much refuse to run it with 2,000.
Yeah, we totally understand that you need people there. You need to keep the sport alive. But hopefully Armoy goes, because I think it's one collective pot, isn't it? Road racing. We're insular because the fact is you get one crack a year. Bar Oliver's Mount, you get 4 cracks a year. And it was my little pet peeve that it really was, and it was like two absolutely amazing events clash. It's a bit like, so I'm gonna ask you while you're sitting in front of me, what's the plan there for the future as far as potentially stopping that?
So I mean, let me say, you'll appreciate this year and last year absolute nightmares for trying to program events, because everybody's moving around left, right, and centre. BSB have run such compact seasons because they've had to for the last 2 years, and BSB are the main show. BSB will do what BSB want to do. They probably only take notice of World Superbikes and MotoGP. Aside from that, they probably do whatever they want. And the rest of us wait for the BSB calendar to come out, and then we all try and do our calendar. I remember when we set this year's dates, I remember looking at the various conflicting things, because, I've got to miss... I wrote down this list of things I've got to miss the other day. I've got to miss TT, and bearing in mind at the time we set the dates last year, we didn't know if TT was a runner or not. We've got to miss TT, we've got to miss Classic TT, Manx Grand Prix, Sidecar Racing Association, FSRA, where they have their championship, because I don't want to pull away from them and they don't want to pull away from because it's basically the same sidecar outfits at both.
Yes.
We've got to miss BSB. We've got to miss anything going on in Scarborough, like the various armed forces days that they have and that kind of thing. So there's a whole raft of things we've got to miss, and by the time you take everything out you've got to miss, you're probably left with not even 4 weekends left. So you've got to clash with something. And I remember thinking last year, we're going to clash with Armoy. And I thought, who's going to go to Scarborough and Armoy? Now I know it's Dom Herbertson. but at the time...
Hey, if I could, I tell you what, if we could, we would, you know what I mean?
But I've at the time, I didn't know Bill Kennedy from Armoy.
Yeah.
But I do now. We've had some good conversations. And I'm now completely understanding that Armoy is a race that we don't want to clash with. And going beyond that, what we all want to do is we all want to look at setting up some kind of championship,
right?
A proper road race championship. And if that's the case, we want to be working with some of these other race organisers and circuits to get a meaningful, properly sponsored, hopefully televised championship that gives people a reason to go to these events, and I think it'll really pull the fans in to look at a year-long championship in Ireland, England, that kind of thing, Isle of Man. So I think there's a lot we could do there. So that means that if we do get that off the ground, and I spoke to Bill about this, and I know that he's quite keen to do something on this. If we get that off the ground, then obviously the first thing we're not going to clash with is anything like Armoy or Southern 100 or something like that, because we all want to be part of a joint championship. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't think that'll be happening again.
No, like you say, if it does, it's good, because people listen to this, and like you say, people only get one side of the story, and it's good to hear, like, our listeners will be able to hear this and go, well, hell, man, you're trying. Yeah. And obviously you're trying, but it's nice to come from the horse's mouth.
Speaking of the TT element, obviously, you've had the ITV coverage with Steve Parish hosting it, and I've watched a few of them. Really, good coverage. And also there was another totally different setup for, I believe it was Apple TV, the whole Rich Energy, sponsored by Rich Energy. And that's been released in like little
episodes,
10-minute sort of bites on YouTube, which I've been really enjoying. Like Dave Neal does the voiceover at the beginning. Little shout out to Dave,
Mr. Podcast,
and
hello son.
And it's really good, but it's the more sort of media and sort of, it's just making it that bit more professional, bringing other people in. And what's the plan with that whole Apple TV thing?
So it's a difficult one, that, because the whole thing with TV, I've got to be completely honest here. I love it being on TV, on ITV and Eurosport. I love that. But I'm going to be totally honest. It's very expensive for us. It costs us a lot of money to be on ITV and Eurosport. And as things as they are at the moment, we cannot afford it. So it's something that is very much at risk right now. You might well be aware that some people are offering financial help to Oliver's Mount right now. Some people are putting their own money in to actually help us recover from this really bad situation. Now, I'm not going to go into figures, but we are expected to pay quite a lot of money per weekend to have that filming done that goes on ITV and Eurosport. And it was difficult for me to even accept anybody fans putting any kind of money in. But in the end, I decided it's probably best for Oliver's Mount if we do allow that to happen, because it means that we can recover so much faster. But I don't feel good about paying the amounts of money required to get it on ITV and Eurosport when people are actually putting their hard-earned money into the club and into the facilities. And ultimately, the people who are going to be paying for this to go out on TV are the people who are coming through the gate to actually watch it. So it's the spectators paying to watch that are actually footing the bill for people at home to watch it. Now, I guess the idea is if we had corporate sponsorship that could cover all that, that's great, and that's a win-win for everybody. But we haven't got it. We have not got the corporate sponsorship to the level that we could just at least cover the cost of the TV. So, for the time being, given we're in such financial constraint at the moment, and we are fighting for the future of Oliver's Mount, I think it's more important that we put that money into facilities and keeping ticket prices as low as we can, rather than just the kind of almost vanity, if you like, of being on TV. Mm-hmm. But the Apple TV is a different thing, because with the YouTube stuff that Dave Neal's and I have to say, Rich Energy do have Dave Neal on board, but Dave doesn't actually charge me for doing those voiceovers. If he gets paid by Rich Energy, I don't know, but as far as I'm aware, as far as I'm concerned, Dave's doing that for nothing, which is really good of Dave. Rich Energy, as we've got a fridge full there, they seem really keen to help out, and they have some sort of deal with Apple TV, and they said that they would give us exposure on Apple TV just to help get Oliver's Mount out there. And I think as well, I think the future is a lot more to do with things like YouTube than just broadcast TV, and so I think that probably is quite a bit of the future. But having said all that, if we can get this Road Race Championship going, I'd love it to be televised. I'd love it to be on ITV4, and I'd love it to be on Eurosport. But the whole financial side of it has to change a bit, because we simply do not have the money to pay the amounts that have been asked, and it's as simple as that. And I just don't think it's right that the man coming through the gate with his family is actually paying his money that's going to the TV. Ultimately, I think ITV4 and Eurosport need to at least pay the money to get the programme made. They sell the advertising. It's on Eurosport every week. It follows BSB every week, and it's great. It's great exposure for us. But why can't the TV companies at least pay for the programme to be made, rather than expecting the clubs and circuits to pay for it?
Yeah. And
it's not just us. It happens at Southern 100. The only place it doesn't really happen is Northern Ireland, because BBC pay for that.
Yes.
And so I just want people to be aware of what the finances are in this respect, because it's a real squeeze on clubs. And in my mind, it's just not right. I think the TV company should be footing that bill.
Yeah,
we'll have a few Patreon questions. Just quickly,
Okay.
You mentioned about fans backing the club financially. What's the score? Like, for example, if someone's listening who would possibly be interested in doing that, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Okay, so on our Facebook page, Oliver's Mount on Facebook, you can see that there's a PayPal QR code. If they just scan that QR code with the phone, it'll take them straight to contributing to our fundraiser. Aside from that as well, there's also some bank details on there. What I wanted to avoid quite a bit of it disappearing in kind of, like a fundraising commission website sort of thing. So I wanted to try and make it as efficient as possible.
Yes, sir.
And also, there were plenty of other people wanting to set one up, but I was a bit worried. If somebody set one up that was unofficial, I was a bit worried that, do you know where that money actually ends up going and that kind of thing. So I thought if we get one out that's official, at least everyone knows that is the route.
First one is Mike Orton. Bad news, that meeting has had to be cancelled, but I'm secretly happy that the Gold Cup has been rescheduled to my birthday weekend. Hopefully a bigger grid now that it doesn't clash with BSB and the Irish Roads is a bit of a bonus. He said he's getting paid at the end of the week, maybe can put a bit in the PayPal, so big thanks. And he said, P.S. I think we need a Chasing the Racing fan area, which I think is a great suggestion.
I'm 100% behind that as well.
Yeah.
Then the second one, Tony Rules. How do you see Scarborough moving forward in the future, given the limited access and the government's seeming hatred of bikes and racing? Is there a possibility of a chairlift system up and down Heart Attack Hill? We'll go with the second one.
I have joked about that on Facebook actually. I'd like to buy a reconditioned skiing chairlift from a ski resort. Yeah,
that is a good idea.
Try and get that installed.
I tell you,
You want to get the tuk-tuks, man, from Bangkok and just have a couple of runs up and down there.
Could do with something. A few times, when you're following like people of a certain age or people of a certain size, and it is a bit of a struggle getting up. I tell you what, I seen Dean when we was there. He had two kids and a push
Super
chair,
dad, full on
something
super
else,
dad.
and he carried the whole lot. It was like a standing ovation at the
Do you know
top.
that right there is a difference between a road racer and a BSB racer?
No, I'm talking about the fans, not me,
right.
man. I'm not.
Oh, no,
I'm
like,
not
wait,
myself.
you know Dean, DC Racing? Mike
Oh
Morgan?
yeah.
So,
Sorry, I thought you were talking about Dean Harrison. Actually, I thought because
No. Oh no. So like Dean super dad there, like you say, he had everything under his arms and he climbed up the hill. But So
is there anything in terms of, other than the main things that we've talked about already about needing to get fixed, is anything that you in particular want to make happen for the future of Osmart in terms of like the event itself?
I've got loads and loads of plans, to be honest. So obviously a big thing is I want to get this road racing championship off the ground, and I've already had a lot of good discussions about that. I'm confident something's going to happen. I just don't know when, because we all need to have a good solid season to do something like that.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant, to be fair. doesn't it?
sounds class.
But what I'm also thinking, I'm thinking about the future of Oliver's Mount. I mean, it's 75 years old this year, by the way. In fact, almost to the day of the Gold Cup, it will be 75 years. So we're going to make a big thing of that. But I'm really, really, absolutely determined that it's going to make 100 years. So I want to be here for the long term, and I want the place to survive. It's not going to survive by just sitting back and doing what's been done for the last 30, 40 years. It needs to innovate. What we've got there, you've both been there. We have got a fantastic venue by the sea in a fantastic town. We, I think, to survive, need to diversify. The road race, Oliver's Mount will always be about road racing. There's no reason why Oliver's Mount can't be a summer-long events venue, because it's such a great location. So I want to bring in, rather than just try and take money off the same people so many times a year, I want to try and attract other people to the event with different events. It could be car shows, it could be real ale shows, it could be food and drink things, it could be family music festivals, anything like that. So I want to really try and get that off the ground with the support of the council and really try and get that going. Another idea I've got to just bring another good revenue stream in is I would love to turn initially the paddock and then possibly the top field into a caravan site when we're not racing. So, if you look at the paddock, okay, it's not great right now because it's got a lot of Harris fencing up. But once we get that down and we get some new buildings in there, we'll have tarmac, power, showers, cafe, all that kind of thing. Pretty much everything you'd need for a good family holiday. Really close to the town centre, really close to the bays. I think a lot of people would like to actually come and spend a week in the Oliver's Mount paddock. So I think if you could get 20, 30 caravans in there a night, all paying to stay there, this is all additional income that's going to come in there. And that means you don't have to raise the prices for the racers, you don't have to raise the prices for the fans, you can improve the infrastructure, and it's just a big snowball. They'll just keep getting bigger and better.
Camping caravan club like Jay from In Betweeners, weekend in Cambusang.
Yeah, that'll be it. Yeah,
there we go. I think one of my final questions before we wrap up and get Braid in is definitely, who do you want to race around there?
Chrissy.
Right? No, mate. Is that?
Yeah, no. I would.
Right.
I would love. I would love to see more. So for some reason, a lot of. Maybe we could get some sponsorship from hair gel providers. No, I would love to see more BSB riders. They are making the transition to roads, but for some reason they seem to pick the Northwest 200 to do it more than anywhere. Why not Scarborough? It's it's in the same country. I'd love to see more people trying road racing at Scarborough rather than just picking on the Northwest 200, for example, and use that as a stepping stone. And ultimately, I think maybe where you're going with that question is where do I see the kind of riders coming from? Oliver's Mount has to appeal to both the committed Oliver's Mount fan rider that loves the place and comes back time after time, but it also needs to appeal to the more professional rider as well.
Of course it does, yeah.
And over time, if you look through history, it's had some of the world greats there. I could rattle all the names off, but you know them. Mm. It's had the roll call is so impressive. We can't let that go. We have to concentrate on trying to make the best we can. Get the best riders there that we can, without losing that kind of earthy road race feel as well. So ultimately, I want to attract the best. I want to attract BSB riders. Yep. But I also want to make it a place that your average road race rider that commits so much time, effort and passion to it feels welcome to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's a difficult balance to achieve, but I think we can, and that's what I like.
Two little suggestions for me. I think what you've already mentioned about diversifying, and especially on race weekend, if you could, for example, have a really good live band on, like on the top field. The second one I was just going to suggest is a little, if there's grandstand seating, like say where the bridge is or something. If you could get a small little grandstand, I think that would be great.
But let me tell you, as soon as you mention grandstand seating to insurance companies,
it goes out the window.
They're not keen. They're not keen. So yeah, we'd certainly look at that.
Well, have you got anything else, Tom?
No, to be honest, I think it's great to actually sit here, have a conversation with you, hear from yourself, and then mind you, you did say before you got on this pod, you've got to mention your wife Wendy.
Well,
you've got to say thank you to Wendy.
Well, what was running through my head is it's more than just Wendy. I need to really give some credit to, there were only 4 of us that work full time at Oliver's Mount Racing, and 2 of us have other jobs as well. But basically, the team, the core team, is myself, my wife Wendy, and Hayley and Sean.
Yes, Hayley and Sean.
Sean's been on this programme before. The 4 of us are really the core team that try and run the whole thing, and it's an awful lot of work. So I want to really give a big shout out to them. But also, the place runs with so many volunteers as well. All the 243 officials, all the marshals, people that volunteer help. We've had so many offers of help in terms of building work and decorating and that kind of thing as well. And some individuals, I won't name them, but some individuals that have actually put 4-figure sums of their own money in to see us recover. And if you think an individual, for no benefit whatsoever, they've put their hand in their own pocket with 4-figure sums coming in from one individual, that just takes my breath away, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I really want to give a big thanks to them.
No, brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant.
And obviously, very best of luck for you.
Wait, this is backwards again now, so it's already been out. So basically,
good luck for the weekend. And, looking forward to getting stuck in.
Hold on. Sod mate, good luck yourself. You're the defending champion. You know what I mean?
Just quickly, who do you fancy for BSB? Who do you fancy leading the BSB Championship after this weekend?
I would like to see Glenn Irwin
Look,
Right.
he was really strong
because
in testing.
I think he's had some nearly years, and I think I'd like to think this could be his year.
What about yourself, Dom?
Oh God, I have no idea. Like we discuss this every time, and it's almost like another name gets thrown in the pot. But there's that many that can push for the front. That is such a diplomatic answer.
I think
But
Glenn's a great shout.
Great.
I think.
And can I give a shout out to my mate Lee for Supersport as well?
Yeah, go for it.
I tell you what,
Get it done this year, Lee.
I tell you what, how good would it be for Lee to win this championship? It would be so good, wouldn't it? Especially maybe being a very biased road racer, you know what I mean? Just get him on the top. That would be outstanding.
Yeah,
that would be outstanding. But no, hey,
excellent. We'll get a podcast maybe at the weekend, and we'll see who we get on. But before we go, big thanks to our sponsor, Colchester Kawasaki. Big thanks to our patrons, and I tell you what, we'll do another competition. Big thanks to Andy, of course, for travelling up on his bike. And I just thought we'll do a quick competition. So
to win a jacket.
If you can't give Blake's jacket away, comment on the YouTube video for a chance to win, and I'll put one of our caps. So post a cap.
I've given all mine away to sponsors. I need to buy one myself. Actually, I need to put my own hand in my pocket, bro.
But yeah, brilliant. Thanks very much, and catch up soon.
Cheers.
Take
Thanks.
care.
Bye.
See you.
Click, buy, deliver with remote purchasing from the 2-time Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year, Colchester Kawasaki. Proud sponsors of Chasing the Racing.